Welcome to Cohort 1986. I'm Rodney.
I'm Candace.
So, Candace, today we do have a very special guest.
We do. This is definitely a special edition. So you guys are definitely in for a treat today.
So we have Jason Buckner and Grant Devaney, who we met at the Nexus Business Mixer about a week ago.
Yeah, shout out to Nexus.
Shout out to Nexus. And they're going to tell us about a very special program that's helping business owners, small and large.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring them on to have them talk a little bit about what they have to offer. I'm excited as well, man.
Yeah.
We're in the business of helping people.
Yeah.
And we firmly believe that these guys are able to provide assistance and knowledge.
For sure. And I mean, just kind of the educational component of what it is that they're doing and how it's really kind of impacting businesses and really kind of changing lives. So I'm excited.
So we're going to bring these guys on. I'm excited. Welcome to Cohort.
Welcome to Cohort 1986.
So, but before we get started, Candace, didn't you have a couple of rapid fire questions?
Yeah.
We're gonna throw you some softballs today.
Yeah.
Some softballs. Not hard. Not too hard.
So, my first question for you guys is, we live in the great city of Charlotte, even though we're a little on the outskirts. People like to forget about us here in Gastonia. So what is your favorite restaurant?
Well, for me, Candace, I'm in Gastonia myself.
Okay.
So, there's so many great restaurants in Gaston County. It's really amazing. However, I'd have to say probably downtown the Web.
Yeah, I agree.
And right down the street from me is a little place called Lotus Bistro and Eatery. Which is an amazing restaurant. It's been there for a long time in the public shopping center. So that's my two.
Okay, great. Awesome. What about you, Grant?
Well, I'm a little further west than Gastonia, and I have to piggyback on Jason a little bit there and go with Lotus. That's been sort of my go-to with him when I'm in town, and they've treated us well there. Food's great, service is great. So.
Great. We got to try it. We see it all the time.
It's down the street. It's literally down the street.
Yeah, cool. So my next question for you is, what is your favorite place to vacation?
Go ahead, Grant.
Well, that is such a that's not a softball question. I mean, that is for me. I've been very blessed as an only child and have traveled extensively, but.
Love it.
My go-to, I've got to go back to Florida.
Okay.
I'm, you may see a little shine with the light here. I like warmer weather more than colder weather.
Me too.
But there's some places down there. It should be on everybody's bucket list. I took my family down there this summer. A place called Crystal River. It's one of the few places in the world you can actually get in some water and be around manatee.
Wow.
So it was a really neat, got to swim up into some springs, and it was a really neat family trip. And so anywhere down in Florida, I tend to.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to have to put that on the list. And that was Crystal Lakes?
Crystal River. It's Crystal River.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're putting that on the list. All right. So what about you, Jason?
Well, look, I mean, I got a ponytail for a reason. I'm just kidding. No, I spent about 7 years lifeguarding on the East Coast, and anywhere I can put my feet in the sand, it's just, something almost spiritual about it. I love the ocean. Definitely the Caribbean is an awesome place. My wife and I did a trip a number of years ago, swam with the whale sharks.
Wow.
Amazing experience. Massive animals in the water. So, yeah.
That's pretty exciting. Yeah, I haven't gotten that far with swimming with whales. I did the dolphins. We
got pretty close.
Oh, with the snorkeling? Yeah, we don't talk about that no more. We ended up getting out of the water. It was a funny story. So we got on the boat, we're on the boat. They were like, oh, well, let's just jump out and look for sharks before we let everyone off the boat. And we were like, okay. You hear how we're saying, okay. So we got in the water, and I don't know, for some reason, I felt like something was swimming against me that wasn't necessarily a little small fish. So yeah, we got out of the water. To make a long story short, anything to add to that story, Rodney?
No, I will never do it again. One time is enough for me.
Awesome.
Now that the ice has been broken. So can you kind of tell us a little bit more about your backgrounds and how did DeltaERC come to be?
Yeah.
You want me to start, Jason, or you
Yeah, go ahead, Grant.
Well, it was I owned a couple of franchise locations, businesses, and had fought through the pandemic. Did PPP 1, PPP 2, and a gentleman approached me with the ERC. Ask, have you maximized your employee retention credit? And ignorance is bliss, I guess. You don't know what you don't know. And I like to consider myself a lifelong entrepreneur. And I was first in line for the PPPs. And I had not dug deep enough, didn't know anything about ERC. He educated me, and it just immediately made sense. We applied for it, and unbeknownst to them and what was in my life, it had been about a decade with the franchise, and I was tired. I was coming back from surviving a pandemic, and I had the businesses for sale, sold them first of this year. Circling back to the gentleman that started this marketing arm for Jorns, came back to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing now that you're retired?" And I sort of chuckled. I said, "I've got a 17 and a 19-year-old. College is ahead. No, I'm not retired yet." But long story short, they said, "Hey, how would you like to have an agency with Jorns? You liked it. You're an entrepreneur. You're forward thinking." And I said, "Well, let me think about it. Talk to my wife, talk to my family." We were going to take some time and decide what was going to be next. But, God opens the door, you better walk through it. And we jumped on the opportunity February 22nd of this year. And the rest, they say, is history. I mean, it was a phenomenal start. I go way back with Jason, and rather than me stealing his story, I'll let him say how I sort of mentioned it to him and how it rolled out, because there's a few details I left out. So he's got a story to tell.
Yeah. And quick question before we go over to Jason. So what kind of franchise did you own? What industry?
Sure. Yeah, it was Massage MV Spa. Most people are familiar with that. And there's 1,200 or so of them across the country. I mean, pandemic sort of shut down several of them. I owned the 2 in Asheville, North Carolina. Part of the state. Was blessed to be able to get that. And it really was a decade. I'd been in about 10 years on both of those. Didn't live in Asheville, lived at the foot of the mountains. So a commute up was pretty intense for 10 years as well. But still a good franchise. I'm not disenchanted with it. My business partner that had been with me for all 10 years was the one that bought me out. So it was not something that you sort of build and then have to let go and let somebody else take it. I mean, no, it was just a pretty easy move over to for him to buy me out.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Awesome. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So what about you, Jason?
Oh, wow. I was a college-educated professional beach bum. That's what I like to kid around with. I was fortunate to go to college on a wrestling scholarship, and of course, I didn't have any money, but I didn't have to pay for school. So in the summers, I was lifeguarding down in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Graduated and didn't know what I wanted to do, so I continued to lifeguard, and I would travel in the winters and ski and just play, and still had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was introduced to an opportunity in the home-based business industry. And I said, "Hey, this makes sense. I mean, a small percentage possibly of what somebody purchases, buys, and, you can build a group of people." And it just made sense to me. And not working for someone else was also kind of up there as well.
Right.
I like to say I failed successfully for a number of years. And fortunately met some people that, what your whole program's about. I met some mentors that they took me in. I was engaged with them and really showed me how to build and develop organizations, and went on to build a full-time business. I retired when I was 36. My wife had her first child at that point, and that was what I wanted to do, be a stay-at-home dad. About 5 years of that, my wife said, "Isn't it about time you do something different?"
I can imagine.
I'm not going to ask her what that meant, but I was fortunate. A gentleman that had been very successful was launching a anti-aging company, and I helped them launch that in 2011. And the company just exploded, and we're 15 different countries now. And matter of fact, me and Grant had reconnected and had been talking some different things back and forth. And he sends me this text message. It's got a little flyer, bullet point flyer, talking about the ERC program. And I'm like, well, Grant, it sounds great, but I don't have any W-2 employees. I'm self-employed. He said, oh, I know that, but you know other people that do, right? I'm like, absolutely. Well, how would you like to help them get some money? And you can make some just referring. I said, hey, this sounds awesome.
Right.
And really, it just started out very organic. I shared with a couple friends I knew. They started getting qualified. I really started seeing the significance, how much this could help business owners. So when Grant was offered the agency part of this, and he said, hey, how'd you like to partner with me on this? I said, well, what's that entail? Well, really nothing more than a lot more of what we've already been doing. Wow. And I said, hey, sounds great. Let's go. And it's just been really exciting. I mean, we've been a short time and have been able to impact hundreds of companies. Of course, the firm we're working with has impacted thousands, over 6,000 actually, and put back over $3.5 billion back to these companies.
Wow.
So it's very, very significant. So that's kind of where I come from and where we're at now.
So
thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing that. So you kind of touched on a little bit about what it is, but how did the ERC program come about? Like, was it birthed out of the pandemic for people that don't know, and can you just kind of talk about that? And basically, what exactly does one have to do to qualify for it?
You want to take that, Grant?
Sure. So, we're all familiar with the PPPs. And this is, if you consider one, a motorcycle, two, a car, the ERC is a boat. It's just another vehicle that was birthed out of the CARES Act money. Started in 2020, and then it was expanded. And that's where the confusion runs into, the misunderstanding of the program. Most people focus on how it came about in 2020. But there was about 200 pages of legislation and amendments that came about in 2021 that nobody was really taking advantage of it. Nobody really knew about it. And so the intention of this whole program from the architects was that 70 to 80% of all, they call them SMBs, small to medium sized businesses, would qualify for this program. They wanted to give money back to the businesses for keeping people employed during the pandemic. And it didn't have to be an essential business. I mean, just the pizza joint that was delivering through DoorDash, kept people employed. So at the same time, there were people sitting at home drawing unemployment and not having to go out to work. And these legislators said that that's not exactly fair, that we charged all these federal taxes, Social Security, FICA, and all the taxes. We're going to give that back to the businesses. So if they get people employed and they qualify for it, we're going to give that back to them as a check. So that's sort of how it got started. I think there was a second half to that, and I got so tied up in that, I don't know what the other half of the question was. Jason, you want to pick up where I may have missed?
Yeah, I think Rodney was asking, what would a company have to do to qualify for that? Yeah. And that's a great question. However, it is also like an octopus. It has many tentacles, very many opportunities, many ways that a small business, which we deal with 5 employees, we can deal with less, but typically it's 5 up to 500.
Okay.
It can be profit or nonprofit. It's all based on W-2s.
Okay.
And really, I mean, it could have been a shortage in supply chain. It could have been a reduction in revenue. It could have been the change of environment they had to make due to what caused, the pandemic. I mean, there's a number of things which what we're grateful for is we're working with one of the top firms in the country that only specializes on ERC specifically.
Wow.
Okay.
So our firm actually will do basically a no cost evaluation, right? Grant, how do I say that?
Yeah, a risk free. And that's another thing. And I want to point out too that I use that word misunderstanding. And I think that is the common thing. It as with me, I didn't even know about the program when I was approached about it. But then there is so much misunderstanding of those amendments in the financial world. Right. Jordan saw that as the opportunity to be entrepreneurial as an accounting firm, and specialize specifically in the ERC program. So not only were they almost 30-year accountants with the knowledge base, they have dedicated their careers and the last 16 months or so now, and for the duration of this program, only to focusing and specializing in the ERC program.
Wow. And that's really interesting. So you just kind of touched on my next question, which is, what all goes into the review? Are you guys looking at like previous statements, or, what does that kind of look like for that assessment?
Well, I think, so this program is an arrears program. So it's looking backwards into what you did during the pandemic. So it's the last 3 quarters of 2020, the first 3 quarters of 2021. And then they're going to examine how many employees you had there based off of what you've paid into your federal taxes, which is your W-2 wages. Yep. So Jason touched on profit and nonprofit. Doesn't really matter. What kicks out is subcontract. 1099 late wages do not count toward this program, but W-2 wages. And the great thing is that's all verifiable. It's already happened. So when Jordan's gets you qualified, and I didn't touch on that, we're qualifying as far as an agency with us. We've got about a 100% success rate, but as a company, out of those 6,000, we're about 96, a little over 96%. So it's not a matter of if we're going to qualify you. It's a matter of when we're going to qualify you and for how much we qualify the business for. But, those funds were already paid in, and then they're stimulated on top of that, so that the program pays up to $26,000 per employee employed during that period. So this is a pretty good multiplier back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So I got a question. So if I'm a company and I received a PPP loan, would I be able to even apply for the ERC program?
Go ahead, Jason.
A great question. And the answer is yes. And what is awesome, as well as Grant touched on with the success rate of our firm, is they have also invested a tremendous amount of money. We're talking millions of dollars in software that actually helps the client, for us to help that client maximize what they can get. And it actually, just on the very thing that you mentioned, one of the processes it does is evaluating from the PPPs how it can pull money in other ways that are legal to maximize the amount the company can get back. We like to say, you want to get every single penny that you should, but no more.
Right.
We like to say our company doesn't throw stuff on the wall and see if it sticks. They only throw stuff on the wall that does.
Yeah. And I think
because
that's
their names are on the line.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so with this, is this something that these businesses would have to pay back?
So the program is designed, this is a credit. So it doesn't work like in some of the other CARES Act money, as I said, those vehicles, PPP, that you had to qualify or verify that you were forgiven your loan, or an EIDL loan that wasn't actually a loan that has to be paid back. This is a credit back for funds that you've already paid in. So those funds are the funds themselves are untaxable, and the funds themselves are undesignated. So when it comes back into the business, then it is funds into your general fund that you determine where they go. Now, if you decide that you're going to take that and buy yourself a brand new truck, then yeah, you're going to have to pay the income taxes yourself on that. Yeah. But if you're going to buy a fleet of trucks, if you've got a delivery service, and that's you've went out and you've gone out and you've spent the money there in the business, and it's untaxable.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. And so if I'm a company and I apply for the DeltaERC, the ERC credit. So let's say I have 5 employees, I get $26,000 a piece. So what would be the cost associated with you guys kind of running the numbers for me, helping me get approved, and how does that work?
Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, yeah, and that's a great question, Rodney. What our firm does is we like to call there's a little skin involved in the game. So the company will actually, the biggest challenge we have is when we onboard, that's what we call a new client, is getting them to get the documentation to the firm. So we require a $2,600 refundable deposit that engages them directly with the firm. They are then going to be assigned an onboarding specialist to walk with them through the process. Once that information is then obtained to the firm, what they need, this is typically about a 4 to 6 week process based on how quickly, like Grant had a client just the other day, they got all their information in 24 hours. Wow. We've had clients that it's been 6 months and they still don't have information. But once they accomplish that, they're going to have a number. First of all, they're going to know if you qualify or if you don't. If the client does not qualify, they immediately get the refundable deposit back. No questions. That just goes back to them. If there's a number, and they say it's X dollars, then the client can determine whether to move forward with that. Now, we haven't had anybody that's not moving forward to get the amount of money that's sitting on the table for them. So if they move forward with that, once they have gotten the money, which typically we're looking at from start to end between 4 to 6 months. That's the process by the time they get their checks coming from the Treasury Department. Once they get that money, they would then submit a 20% contingency fee to the firm after they receive their money. And that's how it works. So at the end of the day, the client's only looking at the contingency fee, which in most specialty industries that do stuff of this nature is very common practice, like the legal field, you name it.
Okay.
Nice.
Makes sense. And so like, also I'm thinking about, if I didn't know it, if I was a business and I didn't qualify and I bring someone to you, is it like a referral fee or anything?
Hey! Now that's another great question, and I want to rewind just a little bit, if I may. Back to that contingency fee. Jorns and Associate is a boutique firm. We said it earlier. That is all they do. There is so much that comes behind in the way we work. We're definitely, I'm the agency owner. I've had a hand and touched all of the 200 plus accounts that we've done since February. So part of that gets a whole lot more one-on-one, the boutiqueness side of it with us. But we're always looking to expand our business. That's I've sort of rededicated multiple times. Every time there's sort of a release comes out in the industry, or they tell us something else, or Jorns does something that's really rocking the boat in the industry, I just get renewed in my commitment to helping every business owner that I can get this. What's so important about this program is that these funds are sitting there. They're already sitting there in a lockbox, ready for the business owner. And all we do is we help get them the combination to that box by qualifying that others just don't want to, others accountants or CPAs or financial advisors they don't understand the program or don't want to do the labor to do that. We help them unlock that combination and you can dip your hand in and get that money. Well, when that money is in the business owner's hands in Gastonia community, in Rutherford County, where I am, in North Carolina, in the Southeast, wherever it may be, to me, it's better than it staying at the IRS.
For sure. Anybody but the IRS.
Pay them what's to be paid. But if they're willing to let you have the money back so that you can better do what you've done, which is keep people employed, that has become a renewed mission for me. So to the point of your question, yes, I'm always looking for people to refer businesses. I pay a very handsome referral fee. If it's just hey, Grant, here, call this company. We've got multi-tier levels of engagement with us, and we can sort of talk and get creative. If I have chambers of commerce, I have insurance agents, I have all kinds. You pretty well name it, and within our conglomerate, that's agents across the entire country. And that's the other great thing about this is it's available in all 50 states. So if you've got someone in Hawaii that wants to sign on to ERC, please let me know, because that would have been second on my vacation list that you asked up front. I'd love to go out there and have a reason to go right off a trip to Hawaii. But
for sure,
it is available out there, and we'll surely work with anybody that would like to refer business to us.
Yeah, and Grant, I would say too, Rodney and Candace, another crucial part of this. First of all, we believe in giving. I mean, the more you're going to give, the more it comes back. But at the end of the day, we have a short window here.
Right.
And there's no way possible that if we were the greatest ever, that we could get to 21 million companies. We just can't do it. But, you may know 6 people we don't know. And because you have a relationship, there's a trust factor. That old saying is the truth. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. Right. So we just, Grant's, spot on. I mean, why not compensate somebody for bringing business that we otherwise wouldn't even know about?
That's true.
And not only will that person be happy, but the business that you referred, when they get their check, will be extremely happy. And we always love it when it's a restaurant, because then we go, you ought to get free meals for a while, right?
and so you spoke on that short window. So exactly how long is the program running for?
That's a good question.
For until the end of the program.
Yeah, when is the end of the program?
You take that one, Grant.
Sure. It's a complicated equation from the IRS, but we've got about a year and a half left to get all the work done and the filings in process before it fades off. But I don't like to I hesitate in answering that, because I don't put it off. This is a first process scenario, and as we know, we never can anticipate what comes out of the belt loop in Washington. There's no anticipation that this program would end. But again, back to, once we get the money into the business's hands, then it's in their hands. And so the sooner we can start that time clock, that evaluation, walking them through those steps, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I really appreciate you guys sharing all of the information about the ERC program. So we wouldn't be cohort 1986 if we didn't ask you about a tip for entrepreneurs, being that both of you all have had some very extensive careers, with being an entrepreneur. So I'd love to hear what your tips are. So who wants to kick it off?
Go ahead, Jason. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
You're going in and out on us a little bit, Grant, just FYI.
Oh, sorry.
Gosh, there's so many things. And, I like to tell people anything that I share with you is probably something I've stole from somebody else. I heard a guy who's passed away now, but he used to start most of his seminars and trainings and stuff. He would say, why would you spend your entire life trying to figure something out when you can go read a book about somebody spending their whole life, in an hour's time, that they spent their whole life figuring it out. So information on whatever you want to be great at, be good at, get better at, it's already there. It's somebody's written it. You have podcasts, you got Audibles, you got all kinds of things. However, my quote I put down for you guys, as you asked the quote, one of my quotes is that, how do I say it? People are more important.
Your time is more valuable than money, and people are more important than money.
Right. So if you keep your mind right on how you're treating people and realize how important your time is, everything will work out if you're doing the activity. And that's the last thing I'll tell you. If you don't do activity, if you don't move forwards, you're going to get nothing. The only way you get better is you do something, and you get better by learning in the process. 1 hour out here in the field doing something is better than 10 hours in the classroom. Now, I'm not saying you don't go to the classroom. Right. I'm just saying once you go to the classroom, you got to apply your knowledge. You got to take it to the field. And I think we lost Grant.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, Jason. And it just kind of goes full circle to what you said at the beginning of the call about, how many times you fail, right? And I think that's a very important point that, everything that we do won't be a home run that first time, that, you have to continue to work at it. You have to keep hitting the ball. You have to keep going out there. You have to keep showing up. So thank you for sharing that.
It's very powerful. Yeah, it's very powerful. And so if I'm a business and I wanted to actually connect with you, where can I reach out to you and Grant at, and what's your website?
Yeah.
Great question. Thanks for asking. You can reach me at Jason, Jason, at DeltaERC.com. That's DEL. Can you spell Delta? DeltaERC.com. And the website is DeltaERC.com. Okay. So you can reach us there. And people can call me. I'd have no problem. My cell 704-460-1666. But the email is probably the best. And we'd love to help anybody we can.
Great. Thank you. And Grant, I see that you're back. So wanted to see if you wanted to share a tip about entrepreneurship.
Still going through technical difficulties.
Okay.
But also, when I was reading, Grant's email is grant@DeltaERC.com as well.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Awesome. So, Rodney, where can the people find us?
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all at Cohort 1986. And we have a fabulous website at www.cohort1986.com, where Anchor, Spotify, iHeart, podcasts available everywhere.
YouTube as well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Well, this has been a wonderful episode today. Can't thank you enough to Jason and Grant for sharing information about the ERC program. Guys, if you are interested in this program or learning more, please don't hesitate to reach out to Jason and Grant over at DeltaERC.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for giving us your time and educating us and our audience.
Yeah.
And have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye, guys.